Royalty 101. The Prince of Wales. For 64 years, Charles, the heir to the British throne, was known as the Prince of Wales. On September 8, 2022, his mother died and he became King Charles III. One day later, in his first address as monarch, he made the announcement that his own son and heir, William, was created the new Prince of Wales. Why is the heir to the British throne called the Prince of Wales? Let's explore the history of how this title was taken by the English royal family. Briefly meet the 29 men, both native Welsh and English royal, who have held it. Find out why 7 of them never got to be king. Learn what rights and privileges the Prince of Wales has, and what other titles he holds. And explore the possible future of the title, and if the current Prince of Wales will ever get an investiture ceremony. The history of the Princes of Wales. After the Romans left Britain, the island was overtaken by Germanic Anglo-Saxons, who pushed the native Britons west to Wales. As England united into one kingdom, the many Welsh kingdoms maintained their independence. They sometimes fought each other and sometimes banded together to keep the English out. In 1137, Owain ap Gruffudd, ruler of the most powerful kingdom, Gwynedd, conquered many of his neighbors. Though he never used the title, he is considered to be the first Prince of Wales. Prince meaning the sovereign ruler of an area, not the son of a king. His grandson, Llewellyn the Great, consolidated power once more. He signed the Treaty of Worcestershire with King Henry III of England, which recognized the sovereignty of Wales. His son Dafydd was prince but died childless. His nephew, Llewellyn the Last, allied with the English king's enemy, Simon de Montfort, who briefly took over control of England. After King Edward I defeated and dismembered de Montfort, he sought revenge against Llewellyn. The Prince of Wales received a message to parley with the English, but it was a trick. He was ambushed and murdered. His severed head was spiked in front of the Tower of London, with a crown of ivy to mock him as the king of outlaws. His brother David, who was really the last native Prince of Wales, was captured months later. He was the first person to be executed by hang, draw, and quartering. His head was spiked next to his brother's. Wales was annexed into the realm of England in 1284. English common law was introduced, and castles and towns were built by English settlers. In 1301, King Edward I placed Llewellyn's stolen coronet on the head of his 17-year-old son and heir, Edward of Carnarvon, and he created him the Prince of Wales. Ever since, the title Prince of Wales has been granted to the reigning monarch of England, later Great Britain's heir apparent. Edward of Carnarvon became King Edward II in 1307. His son, Edward, was not yet created Prince of Wales and was only 15 when his mother invaded England, had his father murdered, and crowned him King Edward III. His son, Edward the Black Prince, so called because of his black armor, was granted the title at 17. He died of dysentery at 45 and was the first English Prince of Wales never to inherit the throne. His 9-year-old son, Richard, became the new Prince of Wales and was crowned King Richard II when his grandfather died. He was deposed and possibly murdered by his cousin Henry IV, who created his 13-year-old son Henry Prince of Wales. The teenage warrior led the English army against the most serious uprising in Wales since the 1200s. Owain Glyndwr was a descendant of Llewellyn the Great. He was crowned Prince of Wales by his people and fought to regain Welsh independence for 10 years. But he couldn't compete with a massive English army. In 1412, Owain disappeared. The English imposed more brutal control over Wales. Owain Glyndwr remains a national hero. King Henry V died of dysentery at 36, leaving the crown to his 10-month-old son, Henry VI. He was unable to rule due to mental illness, sparking the Wars of the Roses. His wife and 7-year-old son, Edward of Westminster, Prince of Wales, fled to France. Henry was captured by his cousin, who was crowned Edward IV. He made his son, Edward of York, Prince of Wales at 3. 17-year-old Edward of Westminster returned with an army to reclaim his father's stolen throne, but he was killed in battle. Edward V inherited the throne at 12, but was kidnapped and probably murdered in the Tower of London on the orders of his uncle, now Richard III. He granted the title to his only child, 10-year-old Edward of Middleham. He died of illness 7 months later. Richard was killed at the Battle of Bosworth, and Henry VII claimed the throne. He was the first King of England to have Welsh blood. His grandfather, Owen Tudor, hailed from the island of Anglesey. The Tudor family had close ties with the native princes of Wales and supported Owain Glendower's failed uprising. Owen Tudor married King Henry V's widow, Queen Catherine of Valois. Their son, Edmund, married Margaret Beaufort, a descendant of King Edward III, and their son, Henry, had a double claim to the throne. He leaned into his Welsh heritage and named his own firstborn Arthur, after the legendary king who hailed from Wales. At 15, Arthur and his new bride, Catherine of Aragon, went to Ludlow Castle so the Prince of Wales could govern his territory. But both fell ill with sweating sickness. Catherine recovered, but Arthur died. His younger brother Henry became heir and Prince of Wales. After he was crowned Henry VIII, he married his brother's widow. Catherine failed to give birth to a male heir, so Henry tried to divorce her on the grounds that it was a sin to marry your brother's wife. But Catherine swore that she and Arthur had never consummated their marriage. When his case failed, Henry broke with the Catholic Church in order to get his annulment. He married 5 more times, to Anne Boleyn, whom he beheaded, Jane Seymour, who died giving birth to a son, Edward, who was created Prince of Wales, Anne of Cleves, whom he divorced, Catherine Howard, beheaded, and Catherine Parr survived. Henry died in 1547, and his son became Edward VI at 9. He died at 15, passing the throne to his cousin Jane, then his sisters, Mary and Elizabeth. None of them had an heir and Prince of Wales. In 1603, the throne went to Elizabeth's cousin, King James VI of Scotland, now King James I of England, and the whole of Britannia was united for the first time. James named his eldest son, Henry Stuart, Prince of Wales, at 16. He died of typhoid fever at 18. His younger brother Charles next held the title. As King Charles I, he fought with Parliament in the English Civil War. He lost his crown and his head. His son, Charles, Prince of Wales, lived in exile until he was invited back as King Charles II. He had no heirs, and his Catholic brother, King James II, was only tolerated because his heir was his Protestant daughter Mary. But when his second wife gave birth to a son, James Francis Stuart, who was quickly named Prince of Wales, the English kicked out the whole family. They invited Mary and her husband William of Orange to be the nation's first joint monarchs. They and her sister Queen Anne died childless, so the next Prince of Wales was their German cousin. He became King George II in 1727 and granted his own son, Frederick, the title at 21. He died of a pulmonary embolism at 44 and was the most recent Prince of Wales never to inherit the throne. His 13-year-old son got the title instead. As George III, he lost the American Revolution. He then suffered serious mental illness. His son, George, Prince of Wales, reigned in his place as Prince Regent. His only child, Charlotte, died in childbirth at 21. Neither George IV nor his brother William IV had an heir apparent and Prince of Wales. Their niece, Queen Victoria, granted her son, Albert Edward, the title at 1 month old. He became King Edward VII in 1901. His son George was Prince of Wales and then George V. His son Edward was the first to have an investiture ceremony in Wales. More on that later. As King Edward VIII, he abdicated the throne to Mary Wallis Simpson. His brother, George VI, had only daughters, so no Prince of Wales. Elizabeth II gave her son, Charles, the title at 9 and invested him at 21. He became King Charles III in 2022 and created his son, Prince of Wales, one day later. At 40, he is the oldest person ever to be created Prince of Wales. Who gets to be Prince of Wales? Since 1301, the title has been held by the English and later British monarch's heir apparent. An heir apparent is a person who, barring their own death or abdication, will inherit the throne next. They cannot be set aside by the birth of another heir. By the rules of primogeniture, this means the monarch's eldest child, if they have one. Until 2013, male preference primogeniture gave sons precedence over daughters. Therefore, a daughter could not be heir apparent, even if she was the monarch's only child. She would be heir presumptive, because there was always the possibility that the monarch might have a son who would supersede her in the succession. There has never been a Princess of Wales in her own right. Before becoming queen, Elizabeth was her father's heir presumptive, which is why she wasn't called Princess of Wales. Now that absolute primogeniture gives daughters equal right in the succession, there will likely someday be a female heir apparent. If, for instance, Prince George's first child is a girl, then the rules surrounding the title Prince of Wales may be changed to allow her to hold it. An heir presumptive doesn't always mean a daughter. George of Hanover was Queen Anne's heir presumptive because there was still the chance that she might give birth to a child who would inherit the throne instead. Unlike many other royal titles, the title Prince of Wales is neither automatic nor heritable. When the current prince either inherits the throne or dies, the title merges with the crown. It can then be granted to the new heir apparent at the sovereign's pleasure. In many cases, monarchs did not bestow the title upon their heir until they were nearing or in adulthood. If Prince William inherits the throne while Prince George is still underage, he may grant the title to him right away or wait until he is older. Numerous monarchs have not had an heir apparent, so there have been long gaps in history where there was no Prince of Wales. In fact, the one-day turnover between Charles's ascension and William being granted the title was the shortest time in history between Princes of Wales. Privileges of being Prince of Wales. In the Middle Ages, the principality was part of the English feudal hierarchy. The Prince of Wales was a vassal of the king. Like other lords, he could request tax money from his people, and in exchange was required to furnish the sovereign with soldiers. Medieval princes were often sent to Wales to govern the country. That's why they usually weren't granted the title until they were at least in their mid-teens. Henry VII sent his 15-year-old son and heir, Arthur, to Ludlow Castle to oversee the governing council of Wales, but the prince fell ill and died there. After that, the king decided to keep his only surviving son, Henry, close. No Prince of Wales since has been sent to govern Wales. Today, the title does not come with any formal public role or responsibility, but serves to signify the importance of Wales as an English possession, and later as a nation in the United Kingdom. So William is not actually the ruler of Wales. The Prince of Wales does have one special privilege. He can issue royal warrants. This is a way to honor companies who supply goods and services to the royals. They may in turn use royal arms to promote their business. Over 800 companies currently hold royal warrants, including the royals' official jewelers, car manufacturers, and providers of tea, clothing, underwear, and horse feed. Only the monarch, consort, and Prince of Wales can issue royal warrants. Other titles held by the prince. Prince William currently holds 12 peerage and royal titles. On his wedding day in 2011, he was gifted the title Duke of Cambridge and the subsidiary titles Earl of Strathearn in Scotland and Baron Carrickfergus in Ireland. William may choose to grant the subsidiary titles to his sons. These titles have no ties to his role in the succession. Royal princes are traditionally granted titles as wedding presents. When William becomes king, these titles will merge with the crown and may be granted to his sons or someone else. The moment Charles became king, William automatically inherited 7 titles that Charles previously held. Duke of Cornwall. This duchy is a massive land trust of over 220 square miles in the fertile south of England. It was established in 1337 by King Edward III to provide income for the reigning monarch's eldest son. The portfolio is currently worth $1.25 billion. Though it is a lesser title than Prince of Wales, Cornwall is far more substantive and will take up more of William's time. In addition to being the source of significant income, the prince runs it as a business. Charles was very hands-on with managing the many farms and operations on his land, and with implementing sustainable practices, and William will likely do the same. The dukedom is automatically inherited by the monarch's eldest living son and heir apparent. If the heir is a grandson, then they may be granted the title Prince of Wales, but not the Duchy of Cornwall. So the Prince of Wales is not always the Duke of Cornwall, but usually they are one and the same. Women are barred from inheriting this and most other dukedoms. So unless the rules are changed, a future female heir apparent would not be Duchess of Cornwall. William also inherited 6 Scottish titles. Duke of Rothesay, which has been held by the heir to the throne of Scotland since Robert III in 1398. Earl of Carrick and Baron of Renfrew, which have been held by the Scottish heir apparent since King James I in 1406. Lord of the Isles, a title dating to 875, when Scottish lords fought off Vikings. It has been granted to Scotland's heir apparent since James IV in 1493. And the legally conjoined titles of Prince and Great Stewart of Scotland, which date back to 1404 and 1371, respectively, and were the Scottish equivalent of the Prince of Wales. All of these titles were held by heirs to the Scottish throne until King James VI of Scotland became King James I of England. From then on, the Scottish titles were granted to the heir apparent of both kingdoms, and later of Great Britain. On September 9th, one day after his grandmother died and his father became king, William was granted 2 more titles, Prince of Wales and Earl of Chester. This English title has been given in conjunction with the title Prince of Wales since 1301. Similar titles throughout Europe. Britain is not the only modern European monarchy with a special title for their heir apparent. Heirs to the Spanish throne have been Prince or Princess of Asturias since 1388, when King Juan I of Castile granted this most powerful territory to his eldest son. Since the formation of the Netherlands in 1815, the heir to the Dutch throne has held the ancient family title Prince or Princess of Orange. The heirs to the Belgian throne have been Duke or Duchess of Brabant since the kingdom was formed in 1840. The heirs to the thrones of Denmark, Norway, and Sweden are more simply known as Crown Prince or Princess. Heraldry. The heraldic badge of the Prince of Wales consists of 3 white ostrich feathers encircled by a gold coronet and a blue ribbon bearing the German motto Ich dien, meaning I serve. The badge has no ties to the native Welsh princes. According to legend, after winning the Battle of Crecy in 1346, Edward the Black Prince took the helmet from the corpse of his enemy, King Johann of Bohemia, and claimed it as a war prize. The helmet was decorated with a crest of ostrich feathers and the German motto Ich dien. Edward won the battle largely in thanks to the skill of his Welsh archers. And because Ic Dyn sounds just like the Welsh phrase Ic Dyn, meaning your man, the Prince of Wales adopted the symbol and motto as his own. Princes of Wales continued to use ostrich feathers in their heraldry. At the Battle of Agincourt, Henry V drilled a hole into a giant ruby affixed to his battle crown so that he could stick a plume of ostrich feathers into it. The hole in the stone has since been patched with a smaller ruby and is now in the imperial state crown. Arthur Tudor was the first to use the Prince of Wales badge as it appears today. Edward Tudor can be seen wearing an ostrich feather in his hat in nearly every portrait. From the 18th to 20th century, young women being presented at court as debutantes wore plumes of Prince of Wales feathers in their hair because Queen Charlotte liked the way it looked. During World War I, King George V changed the name of his dynasty from the German Saxe-Coburg and Gotha to the English Windsor. There were rumors that he would also change the motto of the Prince of Wales from the German Ic Dyn to the Welsh, but this never happened. All about the investiture and regalia. An investiture ceremony is similar to a coronation, but on a smaller scale. A royal or noble is invested with or presented the insignia of their rank and dignity. In the case of the Prince of Wales, this is a golden coronet, a ring, a rod, and a mantle. The Tudors added a sword and girdle. On his way to battle, Prince Llewellyn the Last left his coronet and regalia with the monks at Kymere Abbey for safekeeping. After he was murdered, King Edward I stole the regalia and presented it to his son. This set was melted down with the rest of the crown jewels after King Charles I lost the English Civil War. In 1660, Charles II restored the monarchy and began recreating the regalia. According to his royal warrant, the gold coronet of the Prince of Wales shall include alternating crosses and fleur-de-lis, just like the monarch's crown. But rather than a double arch, it should have a single arch, mound, and cross, indicating that the heir is less than the monarch, but greater than the other royal children. Neither Charles II nor any of his Stuart successors had a son who received an investiture ceremony, so the first coronet designed to these specifications was made for King George II's son, Prince Frederick. By 1902, Frederick's coronet was in disrepair, and a new one was created for the future George V. Most investitures have taken place not in Wales, but in London. However, in 1911, Welsh politician David Lloyd George encouraged the royals to hold an investiture ceremony at Carnarvon Castle. This was an interesting choice of venue, as Carnarvon was one of the fortresses built by Edward I to suppress the Welsh people. George V's 16-year-old son Edward was invested in a fanciful ceremony in the style of a Welsh pageant. Lloyd George coached him to speak a few words in Welsh. When he became King Edward VIII, he abdicated to marry Wallis Simpson. He left for France and absconded with the Prince of Wales coronet. A new coronet had to be made in 1969 for Prince Charles's investiture. The traditional design submitted by Gerard & Co., the royal jewelers, was rejected as too ostentatious. Instead, designer Louis Osmond was commissioned to create a very modern, almost sci-fi crown with interpretive fleur-de-lis, diamonds in the shape of a Scorpio for Charles's birth, and an actual electroplated ping-pong ball for the mound. Charles spent a college term in Wales learning the basics of the language in an attempt to bridge the gap with the Welsh people. In the mid-20th century, there was an increase in Welsh nationalism and even calls for independence. Many protested Charles's investiture, but it went ahead anyway. In front of 4,000 guests, the letters patent investing the prince were read in English and Welsh. The Queen placed the coronet on his head as a token of rank. He also received the sword as a symbol of justice, the ring as a token of duty, and the rod as a symbol of government. These pieces were the same used in 1911. They incorporate gold from the mine of Gwynedd, the home of the native Welsh princes, and are engraved with the Welsh dragon. The mantle, a short robe of velvet and fur, was arranged on his shoulders. The prince gave his address in both English and Welsh. I, Charles, Prince of Wales, do become your liege man of life and limb, and of earthly worship, and faith and truth I will bear unto thee, to live and die against all manner of folks. Edward, Duke of Windsor, died in 1972, and his coronet was returned to the royal collection. The 1911 regalia, together with the new items worn by Prince Charles, are on loan to the National Museum of Wales in Cardiff. Now there is a new Prince of Wales. William began learning the Welsh language while attending Eton. He and Catherine spent the first 3 years of their marriage living on the island of Anglesey, where he was based as an RAF search and rescue pilot. Weeks after being created Prince and Princess of Wales, the couple visited Anglesey and Swansea. While their presence was welcome by many, it was also met with protests. A petition calling for the title Prince of Wales to be abolished got over 28,000 signatures. In light of this, there are no current plans for an investiture ceremony for William, similar to the one his father had in 1969. Instead, William and Catherine will focus on deepening trust with the Welsh people. While the royal family surely sees this as a missed opportunity for more pageantry, with the popular prince and princess in the spotlight, they don't want to dredge up the ugly history of their ancestors murdering the Welsh princes and stealing their crown and country. Along with a number of priceless historic gemstones, they are ignoring calls to return what their predecessors seized. King Charles is so far adhering to his mother's motto, never complain, never explain. But Prince William has expressed his own desire to throw out the rulebook, so things may change when he takes the throne. While abolishing the title Prince of Wales would put an end to its long history, it might not be the worst thing for the royal family. Charles has expressed his desire for a slimmed-down monarchy, similar to the other surviving European royal houses, who live more simply, cheaply, and with far less in the way of pageantry and regalia. If William gave up the title Prince of Wales, he would still be the Duke of Cornwall, and that title is where the real money is. We will get to see a bit of Prince of Wales history on display at Charles's coronation. Prince William is expected to wear a coronet, and he has two to choose from. The traditional coronet created for the future George V in 1902, or the modern one created for Prince Charles in 1969. In next week's video, we'll meet the 16 women who have held the title Princess of Wales. And I'm working on a 3-part series, which will dive deeper into the biographies of the 29 men who have been Prince of Wales. So look out for that in the future. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, comment your thoughts, and check out my other royal history videos. If you really want to help, please consider supporting me on Patreon. A link is in the description. Thank you for watching.